Hi everyone, it's Shar and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to yet another speed build. Oh my gosh, clearly I have been in my speed build mode, but truthfully I just want to kind of find my own style when it comes to the builds that I create, especially as I'm working on my save file, just because I've been playing The Sims for a couple of years now and I don't like loading into the base game. I want to load into a save file that has drama and depth and things to interact with, and I want the Sims to be leading their own lives. Like, I hate when I'm playing and I have my Sim meet someone and that Sim has no career and no skills and no history, no background, doesn't know anyone, is literally just a blank canvas, and that's not what I want it to do. Although I also want to credit Evelyn for getting me back into wanting to build, just because her videos are so soothing and they're super fun to watch. If you don't know Evelyn, just search her on my channel. I have like a favorite creators tab that I have all the channels that I watch and enjoy. So I was watching a ton of her videos and I was like, this is just really fun. And I forget how relaxing it can be to create a build in The Sims, especially when I don't put time constrictions on. When I first started doing speed builds on my challenge, I will say I've definitely improved, because some of my older builds, I'm like, what? I'm also realizing that I'm rubbing my eye as I'm talking to you all, and I was just eating hot Cheetos. So ouch, that's not very smart of me. So something that Evelyn does a lot is this kind of like glass window thing, like skylight, that's what it is, a skylight, and I want to see if I could recreate that. So but mainly the inspiration for this build actually came from Pinterest, where I was just searching like Scandinavian style homes, because we are an evergreen harbor and I want there to be consistency in the neighborhoods that we're in, like in terms of not every house has to look exactly the same, but each neighborhood in the world, and then the world as a whole, should have the same kind of general aesthetic. Like if you travel to a certain part of the US, like if you were in a very wealthy neighborhood in New York as opposed to somewhere in the Midwest, or if you were in the South, like the builds have their own architectural history. So that's the kind of thing I was going for. Now this house, compared to all of the other houses on my save file, actually does not have a family that lives here. This is a house that your Sim can just move into. I made it for a single parent and a child. Technically the double bed can fit two, but the scoot animation doesn't always work, which is why I'm labeling this as a 2-sim home and not a 3-sim home. But if you want to try to see if the scoot animation works, then you could definitely do that. And this is the inspiration I got from Pinterest, with the wood kind of planks on the side, giving it, I want to say that Scandinavian feel, but truly I don't know if that's accurate. I have no business saying if something is Scandinavian or not. This I initially put as a tiny home. It's not tiny anymore because of the patio decking area that we put outside. I don't particularly care. I will just remove this. I do remove the tiny home thing by the end, but truly where this home shines is in its outdoor space, because more specifically what I've wanted to work on was my landscaping and creating different styles of homes that perhaps aren't my exact style but work for the Sim that we are storytelling for. So I mentioned that this house is actually empty. It is just a home that you can move into. It's not a starter home, but I don't think it gets super expensive. I want to say by the end it's like 40k or something your Sim can afford without cheats, but definitely not going to be like the first home that they move into unless your Sim has a career that makes a lot of money. For example, if your Sim is a gardener or your Sim is an entrepreneur and they sell things on the market table, maybe you can afford this as your first home and maybe you want to cheat into it. That's personally not my business. I don't care what you do with it. If you just want to play it, I want you to have fun. I put in a lot of greenery just because y'all know me. I don't like to have blank walls, and this is all about finding my personal aesthetic style when it comes to build. So very planty. But although no Sim lives in this home, in this save file, I do copy some of my lots into the games that I'm currently playing. So like Not So Berry or Whimsy Stories or even Differences, this home will go into one of those save files just as something that we'll play with. So more specifically, I've said that like 3 times this video. That's very strange. This home was designed with Lily in mind. And if you don't know Lily, Lily is the second generation edition of my Whimsy Stories Legacy Challenge. We've just started playing with her, and Whimsy Stories, 2nd gen, their aspiration is to be a super parent, but they are a single parent, mostly because they don't want love. They think that it's a little bit unrealistic, their expectations are very high, and they're not going to settle for a relationship that isn't completely satisfying to them. They would rather be alone. So Lily has to adopt 4 children throughout her life, and we are doing throughout. So in this version of this home, I imagine that Lily lives here with her first adopted child, who I imagine would be a little girl. Keep in mind that Lily just aged up into a young adult in my save file, and we've literally only done 1 episode of her story as I'm recording this speed build. But I knew that I wanted her to have a home to move into. So this is very inspired by Lily, both in its decor and in its style, but also, of course, fitting into Evergreen Harbor because Lily is very family oriented. Faye and Kelton wouldn't move out of Evergreen Harbor, and I don't think the boys would either. The boys being her twin brothers, the youngest ones, wouldn't either. Therefore, Lily would want to stay in Evergreen Harbor. She's grown up in this world. She really loves it. She thinks it's a great place to raise a family, especially as Evergreen Harbor continues to get developed. More things are moving in. Definitely a heavy family focus with the community lots. It is a very communal world to live in, which Lily loves. So you'll see touches of Lily with the natural kind of wood tones, the very greenhouse. We use solar panels. I try to use as many things that have that green footprint as possible. I also shrink the lot down by adding in that fence. So if you want it to expand outward, you could, because I ultimately will replace this lot with a bigger home for Lily that she'll build when she has more money. But as her first home, I think it works. Hello, can I speak today? And I'm adding in this outline of fencing, something again that I never ever do, but I wanted to try to challenge myself to build in a way that I usually don't build. So that's what we're doing here. So where you seeing Lily again is that Lily is a sim who grew up essentially on a farm. They lost most of their farm because I lost the mod for that. But in the storyline, it was a drought year. They lost all of their crops and just never bothered to replace it. So Lily has grown up out in the outdoors. She grew up in a super tiny home. Her parents were kind of technophobes, so they never had TV or technology. Lily was forced to grow up in the outdoors. I say that as if she was like living in the yard. No, she spent a lot of time outside, and I want to continue that storyline and that she loved nature, she loved the sun, and she loves being outside. So the house is tiny, even though the lot is much, much bigger than that tiny house, because Lily would want the emphasis to be on spending time outdoors. I'm going to want to make sure that I time this correctly because I would want this to be in the summertime so we can do lots of summer decorations, summer party stuff. This is a great home for Whimsy Stories if you are playing that. I think it's a fun lot to play in, especially for the first gen that's supposed to be like very planty and loves the outdoors. This could be a really fun Whimsy Stories home, but I just wanted to have that space where there would be lots of things to do outdoors. Lily herself is not a technophobe, so there's going to be little bits of technology inside the house, but you can see that for the majority of this build we stay outside because that is where the fun is, right? You can go swimming. There's a grill area where you can come have a picnic. I also have the window open because it is such a nice day here in New York City. It's also New York City, so it's very loud. If you hear that motorcycle running its engine, fun times. But yeah, anyway, the outdoor space is really what we wanted to focus on, and I play around with like actually having an official deck. So your sim would come out here, they would grill, they would have dinner under the tree in the corner. I put in some like toddler stuff, like just kids play area, I think like a dollhouse kind of thing. I'm going to put in a bunch of lights so that your sim can hang out here at night as well if you want to come have a drink. Not that there's a bar on this lot, but you get the idea. You can add a bar on the lot. Lily's not a big drinker, so I didn't put it in there. But if you wanted to, you could. You definitely could do that. So that's why there's so much emphasis on here. Lily, again, is going to have a child live on here, and I put all the lighting, like I said, because I wanted it to be nighttime, but I just wanted it to feel like a very lived-in place, and I think that adding this kind of outdoor Okay, I think that adding this kind of outdoor lighting makes it feel a little bit more homey, and I like the way the property is lined with trees, but it's not super lined with trees. It's just something that is there, and you can see it looks pretty cute at night too, which I'm super happy with. This is not like a let's hang out in the pool and chit chat kind of pool. It is a swimming laps pool because Lily also likes fitness, and I think she would get a lot of use out of this pool in the summertime. But again, this house is empty. It was just designed with Lily in mind. That's why I'm talking about it like it's for Lily, because we ultimately will see Lily living here. And I do something here with the columns that I actually really like, which is I put in these light posts, but I hide the post within the column. I do change the swatches of it, and we really do utilize the deck space as well for things like gardening. There is no like official gardening area, but I do put in like an area where you can plant stuff. It came with Eco Lifestyle. It's like the vertical planters. I put those in. I put in a yoga area because Lily is super into wellness, as her mom was really into wellness. But I think that's also a skill that your first gen has to max out if you're playing Whimsy Stories. So there you go. There's a yoga mat you can play with. I put in these gorgeous little tulip light lampposts because I just think that they're cute and they gave me Lily energy. They can give you whoever energy that you want, whatever sim you decide to move in here. But I just wanted it to be a very well lit area because the idea is that you really wouldn't be spending a lot of time inside the house. The house is for sleeping, it's for eating, and it's maybe for doing homework. But if the weather is lovely and gorgeous outside, you should be hanging out outside. And I, of course, am going to make this version of Evergreen Harbor, the specific neighborhood. We're up by Rockridge Springs, which is the neighborhood that when you load in already has like a really green footprint. I'm going to make sure that stays the same. So yeah, that's what we end up doing. Of course, I add in a hot tub because we need to have a woohoo spot. There's no woohoo spot inside the house, so you end up having the hot tub as your woohoo spot, but also just like your area to relax. There's lots of flowers everywhere. Just because I think that it was nice. I think it added to the cozy feel of the lot, which I'm super happy with. Also playing with terrain paints to make the house seem more realistic. Areas where the grass would be patchy or non-existent simply because it does not get any sunlight. It is under the home. So we finally move into the interior of the house, which does end up being super, super small. We have this kind of faux hallway in that when you walk in, those first few tiles, there's not anything there, but the kitchen is off to the house is rotated, so the kitchen would be off to the left. But of course here, it's off to the right, but it's off to the left inside the house. And it's a super cute, like cozy country style kitchen. I went with like these soft mint green just because I thought that it was really nice. And then figuring out the floor plan for this was a little bit difficult because I realized it was going to be super, super tight and there probably wouldn't be that much space for the living room. I think I managed to squeeze in a couch and like maybe an entertainment area, a bookshelf, something I put into the living room because of course I wanted there to be hobbies and things that your Sims can do as activities. So you can see we built in the bathroom right off of the kitchen, and then we have two pretty small bedrooms, which is why I'm saying it's for 2 Sims and not for 3. It would be a squeeze if you had 3 Sims living here. You probably have some routing issues because if you watch my Whimsy Stories, you know that we had a tiny home and we ended up with 8 Sims. Not of my own choice, by the way. Faye just kept getting pregnant. She ended up with 6 kids in a tiny home per the Gen 1 rules for Whimsy Stories. So that was not a fun time. But for whoever lives here, I think it works out really well. The bathroom is really small. The 2 bedrooms are small, but they still have the sleeping space. The child room especially has a little bit more room because I utilize a single bed in the child's room, which gave them more room. And then I utilize a double bed in the parents' room just because you would want a double bed. I couldn't imagine sleeping in a single bed at my age now, but that may just be me. I'm just used to having all the space that I want to roll around and be a chaotic sleeper, which I am a chaotic sleeper. The bathroom is just a bathroom. I'm happy with how it turns out, but it ultimately is like a very genetic bathroom. The tiling you can see is floor to ceiling. It's the same because it's essentially like a wet room, because you just shower in that room as well. The shower is not separate. There's a drain that it goes down, but the entire bathroom is tile. And I was trying to see if I could squeeze in the shampoo thing. I couldn't, so I just moved on to decorating the kids' bedroom. And I would say of all the rooms in the house, the outdoor is not a room, but the outdoor area is definitely my favorite. I love the bathroom, but I especially love the kids' room, which I think will just be really fun to play with and give us a cozy vibes. I don't imagine that Lily would live in this home for very long, just because she's going to continuously adopt more kids. By the way, that reminds me, part of Gen 2 rules is that you're supposed to have a pet the entire time, so there is some cat stuff here, which I thought was sweet. I gave the little girl a cat. Whatever sim you want to live in this bedroom can live in this bedroom. It does not have to be a little girl. But I was designing this with Lily's future adopted daughter in mind. But any sim of any gender can live in this room. It does not have to be a little girl. Anyway, I gave her a little cat toy because I thought she would really love the cat and they would be like best friends, and she would kind of view it as her cat, even though it's Lily's cat. So yeah, that is what the bedroom ends up looking like, and I love it. It's very simplistic, but it does feel like a child's room, but not anything like over the top and chaotic, because we went for a very simple white wall. I even snuck in some toys that the sim could play with, so your sim will have plenty of activity time. Of course, there's no toy chest for them to put the toys away, but we'll say they put them away by placing them back on the shelves. Although for gameplay, I will be very honest and tell you, of course, that will get annoying because your sim's gonna take it off the shelf. In the kitchen, I don't do a dining room. Instead, I do an island. I go back and forth with where I place this island ultimately, just because I wanted to make sure it wouldn't clip into the like if you had opened the stove, it wouldn't hit the stove. And I placed down a laptop because, of course, we need skill building, we need career stuff. In this case, Lily is a teacher, so she needs a laptop to do her work and grade papers. But for your sim, it can be whatever you want. We have a pet bowl to feed our cat and the cat tree. And now that the layout is a little bit more laid down, you can see what I mean by this full hallway. There is an entryway you can go into. I put a bright purple couch because why not? Let's add some more colors because the rest of the home is very neutral, and you see the way the light is shining down through the skylight. I think that's absolutely gorgeous, and I love that. It looks so beautiful. And can you just imagine like sitting there and looking out of the windows onto your yard? It's Evergreen Harbor, so there'll be the Aurora Borealis above you, and that just sounds like such a lovely little time. I'll change those shelves out, by the way. I put some cabinet space up above because we're using a very tall wall height, so I figured that's extra storage space to hide things that you wouldn't reach for as often. So in this case for Lily, it's like decor for the holiday stuff that she would put up around the house, because of course she's supposed to go all out for every single holiday, like her home is in the magazine, kind of all out, which is why I want to do summer, because man, trying to do Winterfest in this tiny house, I don't think that would work, because we do not even have anywhere near enough space for a pile of presents or a Christmas tree. That's why I want to make sure I time it correctly. I put this plant just to make it feel a little bit more lived in. I love this little beaker thing, which I put in the corner. I'm going to say it's like Lily teaching her daughter how to propagate and create new crops from your old ones. And then I just put some more plants in the windows because, of course, Lily grew up in the Gen 1 of Whimsy Stories house. They were a very planty household. I leave the back wall blank for, like, family photos. You can do that if you want to. You can put up a painting, really up to you. And make sure to put down a thermostat because it will get very, very hot. And then a little bit of a welcome mat. And I think that in the end, the house is super, super cozy. The only things we have left to do, I do put in a rug as well, and I make it super bright and colorful. I just think it's such a cute house. So the last thing we have to do is Lily's bedroom, or rather the parents' bedroom in this build, because again, it's empty in this version of the save file, meaning there's no son that lives here. I go for a very, I want to say bohemian, but it's not bohemian. Just think like cozy, simple, very relaxing space. That's why you see, I said if you can get your Sims to scooch against the wall and sleep against the wall, then you definitely have room for 2 Sims. But if you can't, you can't. So we have 2 bookshelves, the one in the living room and the one in the bedroom. And we have some shoes just to make it look a little bit more lived in. And in the end, I think it ends up being a very cozy space. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and this build. It's on my gallery or like my library. I have to figure out if you can even access that. And thanks so much for watching, and I'm going to see you all in my next video. Bye, everyone.